Fix at AOL.com. By the way, shout out to Guy Shea, who listened for the first time to the Sports Fix last night and said he loves the show. He's here now every day. Welcome, first-time listener. Welcome back. Become one of the crew here. Guy Shea, thanks to hear from you. Nice to hear from you last night there, guys. Always, I'm telling you guys, I love it when you guys send. I mean, I see the numbers and all that, but it's better when you guys reach out to me. I love some of the comments, compliments, complaints, all of that stuff that you guys get. So make sure that you stay in touch with me, whether you're listening live, on delay, it doesn't matter. Because whatever time you're listening to the show, that's when it's happening, baby. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Tweet with us at The Sports Fix, CLE. Email us, The Sports Fix at AOL.com. Doug Plagans coming up just a little bit later on in hour 2. But right now, we're going to the phones every Tuesday. He's with us. Dr. Football, Bill Check is in the house. Let's talk to my man, Dr. Football. Bill, how you doing this afternoon?
J-Rock.
What's up, my man? How you doing, Dr. Football?
I'm doing good. Me and the Bulldog are here, and I can see everybody in the chat room, but I don't know why I can't talk to them. I guess because I ran these stupid updates last week on my laptop on Mac OS X, and it won't let me jump into the chat room now. But I could see you all there, so I'll answer those questions that I saw before the break.
Yeah, no worries about that. Welcome to the show. As always, another Tuesday. And, of course, you know, there's a lot. We'll talk about all of the stuff going on. Your Cardinals, what a game that they had. We'll get into all of that. Let's start central focus here. Let's start with the Browns. Browns and Raiders this past weekend. A win is a win. Browns did enough to win the game and took care of business. What were your thoughts watching that game and coming away with that one?
You know, I have to say that I was impressed because the Raiders did something that I didn't think they would do. They showed up, and they made the Browns work for it. And it was a terrific game. You have to admit that the defense stepped up. The special teams played okay. The offense was wonderful, but the main thing was there were no coaching gaps like they were two games ago and last game. It was it was a well-coached game.
Yeah, of course. Some people, I can already hear it now. I'm sure I'll have some comments coming in a minute about the offense. Of course, the Browns continuing to struggle running the ball. And speaking of that, yesterday, Coach Pettin, some of the things that he said after the first practice, about continuing to work on that. And, I'll tell you what, though. I'm just going to say I love how he summed it up. He said that one was ugly, but guess what? I can sit up here and I'll be talking about ugly wins for a lot of Mondays. And what that means is if all I do is get ugly wins, I'll have this job for quite a while, and I'll be sitting here and talking to you guys about that. So I like the way he goes about his business there. But it is what it is. Still a lot to clean up. Still a lot of work to be done. I still believe it's going to be another 2 or 3 games before this offensive line, now that they've got it settled in, now that McDonald's going to be the center going forward, Greco's back to guard, I think 2 or 3 more games here before I think you can get that offensive line, not where they were at the beginning of the season because you're not replacing Alex Mack, but if you can get that offensive line near that where they're working as one. I say they need 3-4 games together. So this was their first game as a group together, 2 or 3 more games there, and I do believe that they'll be running the ball a lot more efficiently at that point.
But the offensive line yesterday, like you said, they're settling in. Even though they still have the running issues, they looked better technique-wise yesterday than they did in the last 2 or 3 weeks, even though they, like you said, they still had issues with the run. The pass blocking was much better, and when they needed to get it done, they got it done. And like you said, an ugly win is still a win. And if they go 11-5 or 9-7, but they have half the games are ugly wins, they're still wins.
I'll tell you what, real quick, since we're talking about that, there's something I saw that just really, I brought it up last week, Bill Livingston in today's Plain Dealer. He has another editorial that just really boiled my juices when I read it this morning. Basically, to sum it up in a nutshell, and this is the big paper. This is a big known local writer here that a lot of people read and value what he's got to say. And basically, the gist of the article was, even the worst thing that can happen to Cleveland is for Brian Hoyer to be moderately successful, for the Browns to go to the playoffs this year. Lord forbid that we end this season without seeing Johnny Manziel, who he just gushes about. It, of course, has nothing to do with his friend who wrote a book entitled Manziel Mania that he promoted for the entire preseason. Has nothing to do with any ulterior motives, but, you know, as he gushes on about the man who was named after the entire sport. When I read that, I said, come on, have you have been doing this for 50 years. You have seen true greatness, and you're sitting here doing, but basically, it's just one of those things that I think is offensive. Anytime somebody sits there and tells you that they're telling you something for your own good, this is just to help you. I'm just looking out for you. Those are the ones that you need to worry about. The ones that are just looking out for you. He wrote a "just looking out for you" article this morning that said, Lord forbid, what happens if the Browns are successful under Brian Hoyer, or if they decide to commit to him and he's on this team next season? What if we never see Johnny play? Oh, what a terrible thing that would be, and that's why this season is just a disaster. And I'm like, you know what? Talk about using the one paper in a one-paper town to push your agenda. It is what it is, man. And Brian Hoyer is not Peyton Manning, never was, never will be, but he'll win you some games, and he won't lose you many. And you know what? It just drives me nuts to see that on a team that's actually won a few games here this year. You know what I mean? Now,
well, you know, you should send me that link.
Chat room.
He sounds like some of our people in Washington D.C. running this country right now, which I'm not too thrilled with.
I'm just saying, you know, it is what it is. But that's one of my pet peeves. When I saw that this morning, I'm like, to me, it was bogus. It was literally, I mean, like I said yesterday, in Cleveland, we can't play the lotto for $5 million. We only play it when it's $250 million because we're too good for the $5 million jackpot. You know what we're too good to get the small. No. We only go for the big one. You know, like I said, we're the only city in the world that thinks you go from 0-16 to 16-0 like that. But I guess that's what happens when you draft a man who was named after the entire sport like that. You know, I mean, he named himself.
You think you're the only? You got to come visit New York if you think you're the only one, Jerry.
Oh, brother, I know, my man. I know. It doesn't matter. Mad as it makes you guys out there, Brian Hoyer is still the quarterback of the Browns for another week. They're 4-3. Tampa coming up. Now, I am worried about the receiver size on Tampa. Some of the other things, McCoy up front, some of that stuff. We'll talk about that. But we'll look ahead to the Browns in Tampa here in a minute. But they got to work, as we were saying, on that rushing attack. I think it'll be a few more weeks before that comes together. But, you know, it is what it is. It was a victory against a bad team that you needed to get. You've got another team coming in that brings, as I said, its own set of challenges. Tampa, I believe Tampa will be the stiffest challenge of the last 3 weeks. Absolutely. And I mean, simply the fact that they have three wide receivers sitting there at 6'5" or tall. They've got three guys that are all going to create matchup problems there for the defensive backs. And even though the defensive backs are coming off their best game of the season, I think part of that is because you had a lesser caliber wide receiver core over there with the Oakland Raiders. So it's going to be a stiff challenge for that. And here's the other thing is Jordan Cameron. For those of you guys that haven't been updated, not only is he still in the concussion protocol right now, he may not just miss this upcoming game, but because of the fact that they've got 2 games in 10.5 days, more than likely he may miss both of these. And I don't want to be the guy to remind people of this, but that's his 3rd concussion in, I believe, a season and a half. It could be 2 years, but regardless, it's been 3 concussions in the relatively recent history of Jordan Cameron. I mean, think about Steve Young, retired after 5 or 6. So I'm just saying he's now in that area where that becomes a lingering concern as a human being for Jordan Cameron, not just now, not just to get through this season, but in the future too.
Yeah, I agree. You know, there are still some things I would like to see from this team. I would like to see better blocking downfield. I would like to see Hoyer check off to the third and fourth guy. So far, he's only getting through the first and second read, but he's had no need to go to the third guy. There are a couple of times, though, where he did not, and he had to throw the ball away or get sacked so far this year. I'd like to see him learn to check off at least 3 deep. That would be important to me if I were a quarterback coach or a head coach or an offensive coordinator. And, you know, I would like to see them control the clock a little better. That's one of the things they're missing is game clock management right now.
Talking to Dr. Football Bill Jenkins about the Browns here and the Raiders and moving forward. Paul Kruger, this week, you know, getting a little bit of kudos for the performance that he had the other day, and definitely deserved as he came up and he played. And that's something that I really want to see him continue, because I'll go back to last year. He had a game where he flashed, and the opponent is slipping me, but he had that one game where he flashed a bit, and that was the big, I believe he got 2.5 of his sacks there like that. But and then nothing the rest of the season. As we've known, he's done better in Mike Pettine's defense here this season. He's already passed last season's sack total halfway through this season, but that's got to continue, because the Browns, I said it yesterday, we've talked about the lack of a pass rush. It's not just that they lack that nastiness in the pass rush, where and you saw some of that there, like Joey Bosa against Penn State the other day, when he just manned up and took the running back into the quarterback and just said, I'm tackling 3 people on this play, I don't care. That's what I'm talking about. And I know those people don't grow on trees, but if Paul Kruger or somebody else wants to do it, but Paul Kruger stepped up the other day, if he can continue to do that, that will cut down on the exposure of the cornerbacks. Instead of covering for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds, they only have to cover for 2, 3, 4 seconds. And that's a big difference. That's a huge difference in the NFL.
Yeah, you know, and he's getting double-teamed a lot more because teams are seeing that. Now, I don't think he really got double-teamed that much yesterday. I did see it once or twice where he did get picked up by a second guy and he was out of the play. And, you know, that is the key. And, you know, I see what LG just posted in the chat room about Joe Hayden not covering tall receivers well. He's never covered a tall receiver well. He hasn't covered a tall receiver well since his second year of college. So let's face it, you know, you have Joe Hayden, he is what he is. He's not going to cover a 6'2", 6'4" guy. It's not going to happen. He covers the 5'11" receiver really well.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw a couple of weeks ago in that Saints game, I mentioned it yesterday, Jimmy Graham, that was a bad matchup for him, and you're basically going to have 3 guys that size out here, and all your DBs are, it's going to be technique, man. I mean, you really are going to have to, it's going to have to be technique. It's going to be getting at the high point of the ball, a lot of the stuff that we saw yesterday, but it's going to be a challenge, absolutely, for them against these defensive backs. Now, you've got a lesser quality quarterback, I believe, delivering them the ball. I'm not a big Glennon fan at all, or McCown, to be honest with you, in the way they've played this year. But here's another thing that I'm just going to throw out there about this week's game, Lovie Smith. I'm just saying, if you want to get down to coaching advantages, the Browns do not have it this week. And that's no disrespect to Mike Pettin. I like Mike Pettin. I'm just saying, I love Lovie Smith. That's a veteran, been through the war. So if this game comes down to strategy, if it comes down to who's been in the fire and who can pull out, one good play call, then unfortunately the Browns are not going to have the advantage in that category this week.
You know, and it's funny you bring that up because I got a text message early in the weekend on Saturday from a friend of mine in the D.C. area who's freelancing now. And, he said to me, the Jets could have really used Lovie Smith this year instead of Rex Ryan. And I said, are you kidding me? Really? So.
Oh, you're talking about I'm with you. I thought you didn't realize you were done there, man. The Jets. We're going to talk about them in a minute.
Yeah, and I'm just throwing that out there because I really, he is a good quality coach, but I don't think he's really done well his last 2 or 3 years. He's one of these cases of maybe the game passed him by.
Well, I hear you there.
Maybe he doesn't. understand some of the new nuances of defense, because a lot of guys are getting double teamed and triple teamed now with what they call these shifting blocks. Guys who have blocking assignments that shift from one pass rusher to the other. It's kind of